Unreal. Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello.
I've been thinking long and hard about what we're going to call this show. Got a couple of options. Stratvalanche, I thought was good. Stratquisition syndrome.
Oh, you actually have been thinking about it.
Yeah. And a Stratastic journey.
Yeah, Stratastic. Strat attack.
Strat attack, very good.
There's a point of housekeeping I have to attend to, Daniel.
Okay. Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
While Mick's doing that, first of all, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some stuff.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's going to be called 3 Strats in 3 months.
Nowhere near as good as any of my suggestions.
No, not as good as Stratvalanche.
Stratvalanche.
Those of you...
A Stratastic Voyage.
Who was that? Fantastic Voyage. Those of you that follow the vlogs that we do, for some years now, I've been doing a series of vlogs on what began with this guitar. There is a flying beast in here.
Strats in the city. They follow me around. Oh, he's quick too. There he is. Yes. Yeah. Well done. Well played. That was awesome.
There's just been a hilarious ejection of flying beast episode that went on for minutes. Yeah. Come on, time is money. Right. Those of you who followed the vlogs will know that a journey started a few years back with this, my guitar.
Blue.
We won't go through the history of it. You can watch the vlogs if you're interested. And it's been my guitar for ages. I've had it since the mid-2000s. For today's video, it's gone back to the spec that TPS viewers will have known it originally. It's got the Seymour Duncan Antiquity Texas Hot pickups in. And unfolded this rabbit hole of discovery, learning, dissatisfaction, disappointment of trying to make this guitar sound a bit more like an old Strat, because I've been lucky enough over the years to play lots of old Strats, and then we played some and I'm like, I just can't get this out of my head.
Yeah. We had a really wonderful opportunity, or Mick had a wonderful opportunity. A gentleman called Simon got in touch and said, I happen to have a 1961 Strat at home that I'm not using. Would you like to borrow it? And maybe you've seen the video of
Tone Hedge, the legend of Tone Hedge.
The legend of Tone Hedge.
I've got a link below.
That video was prophetic for a number of reasons. If you see this in that video, it's like, okay, that's unironically what I end up looking like now. So this guitar turned up, and I never forget it. I turned up to film one day, and I'm walking up the steps to the studio and I hear this sound. And I stood outside for a couple of minutes. I'm thinking that is the best guitar sound I've ever heard. And I walk in and it's Mick with a fuzz face with the 61 Strat into his two-rock.
Now you said fuzz face, we'll have to get one out in a sec. Yeah, and at that point, I will do some more vlogs on all of this to go into detail of some of the stuff we're going to discuss today. This is more about an overview of where we are now. But I didn't want to admit it because all the vintage guitar phooey and all of that, you know, you do have some motivated cognition in it all. You do want to like it because it's old. There's a lot of psychosomatic stuff that goes on. But reluctantly, over the months that I had it, it became blindingly obvious that it was a killer guitar and I was really bonding with it. Simon wasn't at liberty to sell it at that point, or at least he didn't want to sell it. I was really bonding with it. So I said, you know, you better take this guitar back because otherwise it's going to be a real wrench when it has to go. And he said, well, I'm only going to lend it to somebody else, so why don't you hold on to it? I was like, okay, fair enough. We'll come back to it in a minute. First step on the journey was replacing pickups and things in this guitar in blue, and definitely with some success. The bridge saddles, pickups, and it took a step or two.
They are amazing vlogs. If you haven't seen those, there's a Strat Journey vlogs that Mick's done, and they are wonderful.
And there will be more for those of you who like that kind of thing. But Dan said today, you know what? Why don't we do it as a full show? He said there's some things that Dan is interested in. He said he might have a pertinent question or two, because then it all went crazy. I got so annoyed at not having a vintage Strat. I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll buy a Custom Shop Strat to kind of tide me over and scratch the itch. That's when this one turned up. So the story behind this one I thought was just awesome. We were heading down to... Oh, no, you were perusing the Andertons website, as you do. Yeah. And
there are some specs that you look out for in Custom Shop Strats.
Yeah, they're all outlined in that vlog if you want to watch it. But briefly, 7¼ inch radius board. A lot of new Custom Shop Strats have 9.5 flatter radius fingerboard. It's got lacquer on the back of the neck. Quite a lot of them don't. They have it all taken off, and I'm not a fan of that. A couple of other little bits and bobs. Anyway, and it was published at a really good weight. All of this is in that vlog. Sorry, I won't go all over it again. But it turns out that apparently I'd spec the guitar, because Lee phoned me up one day and said, what would you put on a guitar if you were going to spec it? So they ordered a bunch in. The only thing I didn't spec on that guitar were these Fender Custom Shop Texas Special pickups. Mm-hmm. So I get the guitar, really like it. It's a very different sounding Strat, and you can hear it in earlier vlogs and videos, and I just didn't dig the Texas Special pickups at all.
Yeah.
And that brings us to where we are now. So I bought that, and then everything went crazy.
Yeah. The guitar went back to Simon.
Yep, it was gone.
The old guitar was gone.
The 61.
And Mick gets this and he goes, this is great. And when I played this guitar, what was really interesting was at the 12th fret, the neck is quite thick. And at the nut, the neck's a lot thinner.
Yeah, so the old ones, again, this is all in that previous vlog that I did when I got that guitar. And there's actually measurements if you want to see the actual measurements. But the old guitars, they tended to taper out. So they were thinner here, fatter here. And that was by 63, that is a 63 neck profile. Supposedly they all differ, right? It just feels old. It was one of the many things that was annoying me about this guitar, about blue, because it's got a very modern feeling neck with no taper on it. And once you've played those old things, and if you like them, because for sure not everyone does like them, if you do like them, and I happen to, it's really hard to go back. So that turns up, happy boy, takes a minute just to bond with it. New scratch plate on there from Crazy Parts, which is a proper celluloid nitrate one. It has Andreas Klopman 60 pickups in it. I also have some Ron Ellis 5060s, which I like equally. It's an ongoing process of just swapping them in and out just to see which ones we like today. But both of them are really, really fantastic sets of pickups, and I really like them much more than the Custom Shop Texas Specials vlog upcoming on that. Then it goes crazy. Aynsley Lister comes in one day and brings in a 1970 Strat, which you can see on the screen now. I'm like, man, that is a cool guitar.
I've always loved the big headstocks.
And out of the blue, he phones me one day and he says, I'm selling that 70 Strat because I found a couple more that I like more. Do you know anyone that might want to buy it? My brain goes, well, the prices of the early 60s ones now are out of reach.
Crazy money.
So, you know what? That's a really cool guitar.
How soon after you'd bought this guitar did that guitar?
About 6 weeks.
Right, okay.
And so it was all a bit financially trouser worrying at this point. But when a guitar comes along like that, Aynsley had had a lot of work done to it. He'd had it refinished in nitro, which really appealed to me. The specs of the 70 Strat are not that dissimilar from the mid 60s, 65-ish, except for the big headstock. There's a couple of differences, but stuff like the bridge is pretty much the same. The pickups are very, very similar. It's a 4-bolt neck. It has no bullet truss rod. It's even nitrocellulose finished on the headstock, which you'll see in a sec. And it's just a super vibey guitar. So we worked out a deal and I was like, yeah, great, cool. Happy days. You'll hear it in a minute.
And then?
Literally about 2 weeks after that, Simon sends me an email going,
during that 2 weeks, you were the happiest with the guitar I think I'd ever known you, right? Because you'd had your first vintage Strat.
Yeah.
And it was singing.
That I'd owned.
Yeah, first vintage Strat that you'd
borrowed
owned.
plenty.
And it was singing, and I thought, I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
Mick's finally got an old Strat, because I'd had my old telly by this point, and I thought, because I knew when the Strat went back, the 61, that you were...
It was a bit hurty.
It was a bit hurty, and you were dealing with it brilliantly,
Yeah.
much better than I ever would have.
Yeah.
But then you got the, is it 75? The gold one?
70.
1970, sorry. So you got the 1970, and I thought, wonderful. Mick's got his old Strat.
Done.
We're happy now.
Yeah, yeah.
2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, Simon, owner of the 61 Strat, gets in touch and says, do you know what? I think I will sell that Strat.
Oh, fantastic.
So I then have a conversation with my wife and with Dan, and we work it out. And I appreciate that. So this all happens between December and March, pretty much, of 21, 22. In the space of 3 short months, I am now the owner of 3 really lovely Strats. I haven't bought any. It's been a long time since I spent money on guitars, and I did borrow some money to do it. So it's like, I appreciate it. It might look a bit spawny or whatever. Anyway, lifetime ambition. I've been waiting 25 years for a vintage Strat. You wait for a vintage Strat, 2 come along at once.
Awesome.
And I have to say, both Aynsley and Simon were very humane in their pricing.
They were, yeah.
With a couple of little conditions that come with the guitars, and that's completely normal in buying vintage guitars. Anyway, so where are we now? That's the brief story of the 3 guitars. It's sort of come full circle. Where I was struggling with that with the Texas Special pickups, I made this assertion, and the assertion said, from my memory, late 50s, like 59 when they went to Rosewood board, early 60s Strats, sweet, plummy, plenty of high end, but not lots of aggressive mid-range.
Right.
Lovely, well balanced. And I played ones that sound a bit more aggressive and a bit less aggressive. But what then happens is through into the mid 60s, they start getting a little pokier, more aggressive. And this is a generalization, all right? So you will find guitars that differ from this, but a few things they changed. Certainly once you get into 63, some of them are real bangers. Really, really fat sounding guitars. 64, they changed the wire, they changed a bunch of other things in the pickups, this sort of incremental changes. And 65, they start, to me anyway, sounding quite aggressive.
Okay.
I mean, not aggressive like in a Schecter with EMGs, not like that, but in Strat terms.
Okay.
And then, and again, these are all generalizations. Then what seems to happen to me is,
I'm going to pretend that didn't happen to the Telecasters in 65.
As you go through the decade towards 70, they start sounding a bit softer again. albeit in a albeit in a different way.
Right. Okay.
You can have that discussion in the comments section. So I figure there's this peak in the middle of where they were brighter. And if you think about someone like Robert Cray, you think about John Mayer, he likes the mid-60s sound, and his Silver Sky reflects that a little bit from PRS there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Bit more present in the upper mids, not as sweet on the highs, and probably not as high, but much more of that louder, more present, more banging middle range.
Yep.
So I start making a vlog about this, swapping the pickups out in that, and that may well see the light of day. However, what we now have are what I consider to be some guitars that bookend it, and they feel pretty typical of the breed to me.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I think we can put some of that to the test today.
Okay, lovely.
And with respect, deference, and much love to my main guitar for so many years, see what we think about having spent all this money,
How far have we come?
having gone down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Is there an improvement? Is it worth it? Is it, you know? So
Has it been a fantastic voyage? Is what you're saying?
on this fantastic voyage. Yeah, it's certainly been a bit of a roller coaster, and I do pinch myself actually.
When you, so Mick calls me and tells me that about the 61 Strat, and I am so excited for Mick, and Mick's like, no, not until it's in my hands, not until it's, you know, I don't, because Mick just didn't believe it was actually happening.
I didn't.
And then Mick calls me when he's in the car on the way to get it, and I'm going, oh, you're gonna get your Strat, and he's going, no, not until. And then he calls me on the way back from the car, and his face is go like this. Oh, it's just.
It is
Wonderful.
pretty magic. That any those of you who've, you know, whether you've got a guitar that you've always dreamed of or a vintage guitar, whatever it is, you'll know that feeling. So this is my current pedal board. Up here is all this stuff. Under here is like a oh dear.
Oh heavens to Betsy!
That's actually not in at the moment, but the naughty silver thing is. And we've gone semi-sensible on the amps today. My 2-rock with a 112 cab with an EV in it. I've fallen in love with EV speakers. And a Fender Deluxe Reverb, and it sounds, I think, really nice, Dan.
It does indeed.
It's funny hearing this again.
Yeah, right.
It's been a couple of years since I've heard it with these pickups in.
Right.
Fat mid-range, isn't it?
Fat mid-range.
So, where should we start, Dan? What do you want to know? What are the questions?
So, chronologically, what are the differences that we can hear?
Let's start with these two then.
Okay.
Let's just see what we can hear, and we'll see if we can put some sense on that. I'll keep the amp, keep all the pedals off for a second, so we're just hearing the amps.
Okay.
And I'll play something similar to what I just played.
Okay. The energy is in a different place. That's so interesting.
I'm hearing thicker
Yeah.
mids in a big way.
Yep.
Let's do the full 9 yards then. Dan will play in a minute.
So we'll just say that all the strings have been changed today.
They're all new strings.
All new strings.
Same gauge.
Yep.
The pickups are all more or less at the same heights.
Oh, man. Please, audio, pick that up. That's amazing.
What are you hearing?
That guitar, it's like, oh, man. There's mids in that this doesn't have. There's bottom end in this that doesn't have. But there's a top end in this that seems to sit. It's beautiful, but there's like an air in the top end in that guitar.
There is. I want you to listen to that. I'm going to go on to position 2, right, which is the bridge in the middle pickup. I'm just going to use a little boost here, which is not too much overdrive. It's just a little boost. I want you to really listen to the top end in this guitar.
Man alive.
Sorry, Dan is being an epic guitar stand today. You'll play in a minute.
The energy's in a different place.
Yeah, it is. I think the 61. Let's have this one a sec. I think the 61's got more high end, but the 70's got more upper mid.
Yeah,
which is really high upper mid.
We talk about air frequencies a lot, and it's as if this has those frequencies that are built in.
But it's quackier, isn't it?
Yeah,
quackier.
Yeah.
Really sweet.
Yeah, lovely. But that energy's moved down a bit to the sort of more lower end frequencies.
Yeah, it's louder.
Yeah.
I think it's louder.
I've always loved that guitar. But now hearing it next to those three, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so what that is to me, and the reason I swapped these pickups out in the first place, is overwhelmed pickups.
Right, okay.
So you lose some of that really lovely, sweet, trebly, lovely stuff up top. And I so hope the audio is picking this up because it's night and day in the room.
It really is.
But this is fat in the middle.
Yeah.
And I've said many times I really like sledgehammer strats.
Yeah.
And that's what gives you that sledgehammery sound a little bit, is by having that push in the middle. So if we do the classic tube screamer thing just for a second, if you'll indulge this, Daniel. Here's the tube screamer, right?
This one has better note definition than blue.
Yeah.
It's still not the same as the two old ones.
Yeah, I was going to play the 61 once again. The newest guitars feel louder to
Right.
me. I don't know if that is the case. There's more chew, there's more definition, and there's more character. To me, I think.
Yeah,
Are you hearing that?
I absolutely am. I love the top end in this thing for the gainier stuff.
Yeah.
Is pokey, but there's a definition of that. I think from the very first moment I heard that guitar, that's what always stood out to me. There's this definition, that even with the like full on gain sound, I could always hear the guitar, always hear the pick.
Have a play. Give me one.
Okay.
Have a play and see where you are. Here you go. Dial in a sound you like, and we'll just swap the guitars around. See what we can learn. Oh yeah, the volume knob I've managed to round off, so I need to just fix that. The top end difference is remarkable.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely remarkable. Now, you will have watched vlogs from before, and you'll know that swapping the pickups around doesn't make a massive difference to blue. Makes a bit of a difference, but it's not chalk and day, is it?
No. So this is beautiful.
It's in between, I think.
It still has there's a strident nature about sort of how forward it feels, but Why do the old ones sound like that?
Yeah. Now,
What's the difference in the wood? I mean,
wood pickups, it all matters. Let's not get into that.
yeah.
What you might be perceiving out there is that because of those more prominent mid frequencies in blue, is stronger guitar in many respects, but it doesn't have the high end response, and that might equate to something that you think is better. And there's no better or worse here. It's just what you might prefer or prefer less, and some people want a stronger sound from their guitar.
Yeah.
What I love about Strats is that they are not crazy strong guitars.
Right.
So I think we're probably at the point where we're saying, are we saying this is the most kind of open of the bunch? The least kind of coloured in the mids? The clearest?
Yeah. Definitely the clearest.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm going to stack some gain on then and let's see what happens. So a sound that I've been enjoying greatly just recently is this 59 sound from Zvex. We'll do both sides and see what happens. Starts to come to the fore a bit now, because what we've got is that extra mid push, which is maybe what you might want in your rockier sound. But what you said about the 61, I think is right. It just is so clear.
It's so clear. I don't really understand the mechanism of how a guitar with a lower output, higher frequency, less mids, and yet with a sound like that, just retains. It's like a guitar with more mid-range and upper mids and that. It pokes out. To me, it should have more definition, but it doesn't.
No, because it doesn't have the high end.
Right.
I think it's
all about that.
You could almost compare it to stacking two full range overdrives together, whereas what you actually want is a treble booster. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Let's finish the gainy bit. I'll just put on more gain. We'll put everything on because you know we like it like that, right?
That's outrageous. It's outrageous. What blows my mind, right? With that much gain on it, and you can still clearly hear the difference between each guitar.
Yeah, I actually thought Gold Custom Shop stood up really great there.
It did all right.
I thought they all sounded good. This is lovely and clear.
Lovely and clear. It's as if...
It's not just me, is it?
No, it really isn't. We often talk about one of the last things you need when you're playing with loads of gain is loads of bottom end. And it's as if that takes all the energy from the bottom end and just shifts everything up. It's the most remarkable sounding thing. With that much gain on it, that you can still hear it. The clarity in it, it's just amazing.
It is. Speaking of clarity, I want to do a clean sound thing a minute. I'm going to stick some reverb on. Like a plate type reverb. I think it's a plate, this one. Not going to use any overdrive pedals. Just turn the amps up a little bit. Just to get a bit more love going in the amps there. And we're just going to listen to the clean sound with a bit of plate reverb.
I love blue. It's a really special, important guitar for us. Hard to see where it lives now with these three.
Yeah, I think what we've got is, I love the poise of the 70.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Yeah.
You know, if
amazing.
you're playing, especially if you're in a Marshall and you're playing Jimmy type stuff, it does really seem to work for that.
Right.
It sounds epic in E flat.
Yep.
You,
Okay.
you might have heard that on previous shows.
Right.
That it has a harmonic richness right across that none of the others have.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put into words what it is, because even under heavy gain, it sort of keeps its, like, this gets a bit confused under heavy gain because it's got all that mid push. And I'm a fan of guitars that are a little bit, so there's a little bit less guitar, or at least a little bit less pickup in the game. And what that gives you when you use, you know, what I consider to be quite a big sound. It's loud, and there's 3 gain stages, and I've grown up not having powerful guitars. I've grown up having guitars that have endless headroom in that scenario.
Right.
So no matter what you step on, it doesn't turn too much to mush.
Sure.
The guitar still stays discernible in that, and I think that guitar does that in a big way.
It really does. It's been fascinating just to hear them do the same sound side by side. And I'd always suspected, whenever I've heard you play this guitar, there's a connection there, and stuff comes out, and it's a sound that I hear and go, oh, that's absolutely epic. But I've always, you know, whenever you play Strats, it's always great, but I've never heard them like this side by side, because I've always wondered, is it just because it's a 61 and I'm like all fizzy about it and I'm so happy for you that you've got this guitar?
Yeah.
Or is there something to it? And now listening to them side by side, I'm going, there's something.
Yeah, I would be, having made the generalisations about, you know, the sound of the early 60s guitars and the later ones, and taking all that as read, it's a bit of a leap to go, you know, from our experiment today, the old ones sound better. I think it's not appropriate to say that. What we can say is, regardless of however old or anything any of these guitars are, I like the sound of that one the best. And I like the sound of the 70 the second best.
Yeah.
Closely followed by the Custom Shop. And actually the Custom Shop, for some things, I might prefer it.
So for me, the Custom Shop in the 70s, some things the 70s I like better.
Yeah.
Some things the Custom Shop sounds better. This thing sounds better on all of them for everything.
I would agree, but you know, there's some cognitive. When the guitar first turned up a few years back, anyone that was in and around TPS who play guitar, who listened to guitar, are like, "Man, that guitar sounds amazing." I'm like, "Nope, I'm not having it.
Yeah.
I'm not having it. It's all cognitive bias." We'll see what comes out in the wash, and here we are, almost 4 years later,
And it's doing.
and it's come out in the wash. As far as I'm concerned, I feel greatly privileged to have acquired it, and I'm looking forward to growing old with it. A couple of setup issues to sort out.
Yeah. But I'm so happy for you that you've got this.
Thanks, mate. Dan has pushed.
Extraordinary.
All the times I've given up and I've gone, nah, it's just not going to happen. Dan has just pushed and gone, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And there we are. It's you know, you'll see the history of the guitars in other videos, but you know, it's a refin.
Yeah.
And so's the 70. They're not like pristine, untouched vintage examples. They're something that's, you know, we all have different budgets, but for my budget, more attainable than a pristine vintage example, which is literally unattainable. So, and I don't want a pristine vintage guitar because I can't mess about with it.
Yeah.
I can mess about with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much. We should hear some final tones, I think.
Okay.
Do you want to try anything? Do you want to have a listen to something?
Yeah, I want a big reverb sound and a bit of gain.
All right.
With this one.
Yeah.
Can I have the 59 sound and the tube screamer?
Yeah.
And just loads of reverb.
So I get on with this then.
So
I turned the clone on the end there. Just couldn't resist it.
I haven't played a Strat in a very long time. I played my Ed O'Brien Strat, but it's a world away from these. And I'm sort of fumbling around a bit because it's so alien. And yet, something about the sound of this that I'm just like, oh, heavens.
Yeah, it's rich and full, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think you were fighting because Dan's so used to the telly, which is a really strong guitar. I didn't think you felt like you were missing much there.
No. Wow. That's you gotta feel pretty good.
You are?
I said you gotta feel pretty good.
I don't feel bad. That would be the truth at this point. I don't feel bad. Just gonna have a muck about with some of this stuff. There'll be more detail on the guitars and maybe some more individual vlogs coming up. But we just wanted to do that, have a step through the 4 guitars and just have a listen side by side.
Yeah.
Fascinated to hear what you think in the comments. I know there's a lot of people very emotionally attached to this guitar.
And it's a great guitar.
And I love it, but my emotional attachments have gone to that guitar and the gold one down there.
Dracula.
Yeah, man. Bit of octave fuzz at the end there.
Amazing.
Got to be
How
happy with that.
amazing. Yeah,
Got to
man.
be happy with that. Fascinated to read your thoughts. Lots more learning to be done over coming months and years of
Yeah.
living with these guitars.
Yeah. I had to push Mick a little bit today to get this because
Yeah,
I
I
really, really wanted to hear it.
Truth be told, I didn't want to do it because I haven't. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, but thank you, mate. That was
Thank you.
Bloody
Thank
wonderful.
you for the indulgence once again, mate.
Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. A massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some merch, t-shirts and pedals and hats and strings and
All that stuff.
all the love.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Please go to thatpedalshop.com in the US if you want to buy some pedals, accessories, and an amp or two. There's a few amps there as well.
Lovely.
All of the above helps us fund this show. Doesn't help us buy these guitars, by the way. That comes out of our own personal money.
Indeed. Indeed. Massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. We got pedal giveaways every month for our Patreons and also podcasts of the Monday VCQ for patrons as well. So thank you guys. And a massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is...
Anderton's Music of Guildford in Surrey, where I bought that gold guitar.
And our mates in Australia.
Would be Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland.
Lovely. Please join us on Monday for viewers' comments and questions because we'd love to hear what you think and your experiences with, Strats and, vintage guitars.
All the comments that say, you've wasted your money, mate. You should have just stuck with the blue one. There may be some wisdom in that.
Absolutely not. Thank you so much. We'll see you Monday. Till then, have a great weekend. Bye.
See ya.